put it to you that whenever you think about Elijah, one of the very first things that comes to your mind is the event that took place in 1 Kings chapter 18 from verse 21 to 45. This is the place where Elijah, of course, asks prophets of Baal to go into a context with him and eventually won over them, of course, proving that God is the God of the universe and the God of the Israelites. However, most people gloss over the fact that before this, Elijah had already performed two miraculous events that ultimately proved that Baal was not the God of the Israelites and wasn't the God of the universe, and that Baal was not the God at all. Now, the first is found in 1 Kings chapter 17. Immediately Elijah appeared, he uttered the sentence, "As far as God lives, whom he serves, there shall neither be rain nor dew in the land of Israel." And it ultimately happened. That event alone proved that God was supreme. Why? Because Baal, remember, was not originally a god in Israel. He was imported by Jezebel from her father's land and is considered the god of fertility and the god of progress. So somehow, by God shutting down the heavens for 3 years was a proof to Ahab and the people of Israel that God alone is in charge of this providence or this success you are enjoying. But somehow they never acknowledged that. Then he did another thing. He went to Zarephath, the widow of Zarephath. Now, this is another story that most times when we read, the first thing that comes to our mind is, oh, God was able to perform the miracle of the jar not running dry, the oil and the flour. But no, the spiritual significance of that is this: Sidon is where Zarephath is found, and Zarephath is one of the regions that is controlled by Jezebel's father. This means that this was one of the major territories where Baal existed as God, right? Right? He had dominance over the place. Now, Elijah coming down to Zarephath, he had so many other options, but he went all the way down to Zarephath, to Baal's main territory, to prove to them also that even in the so-called place where Baal is known to exercise dominance, God is still in charge of the whole place. The Bible says the earth belongs to the Lord and all the things therein, right? So the miracle is not so much about the fact that the oil did not run dry, but in the fact that even in the territory where Baal exists, God still remains king. And why is this significant? Oftentimes, we have the tendency to gloss over the events in the past where God has proven himself to be God. Our memory span is such that we just concentrate on the future and those things that are negative of the past, oftentimes. But God is asking you today, what about the things I have done in the past to prove to you that I am God? Why must it have to be this big thing that is coming in the future that will make you believe that I am supreme over everything? So, if your faith relies on what God is yet to do, begin to remind yourself of the things that God has done in the past, that regardless of whether He does this one or not, He still remains God.